Hello, you're watching the evening news on Voxafrica from London. I'm Kesha Gitari. Now our headlines tonight. 7 people have died in 2 fires in Cape Town, South Africa. Following a protest, Nigeria's Senate votes to lower the age limit required to run for president. And the European Court of Justice rules the Palestinian fundamentalist group Hamas should remain on its terrorism blacklist. Seven people have been killed by fires in 2 separate incidents in the early hours of Wednesday in Cape Town, South Africa. A fire and rescue spokesman is quoted as saying 1 man was killed after 5 buildings were destroyed in an informal settlement at about 5 o'clock in the morning local time. The cause of the fire was thought to be an electrical short circuit. In a later incident in another informal settlement, 4 children, a man and a woman, died, but the cause of that fire remains unknown. Suspected Christian militiamen killed 2 Moroccan peacekeepers from the UN mission in Central African Republic on Tuesday, the second deadly attack on Moroccan forces this week. The mission reports the peacekeepers were ambushed by suspected anti-Balaka fighters in the town of Bangassou, some 400 miles east of the capital Bangui, as they stocked up on a water delivery. Thousands have died in an ethnic and religious conflict that broke out when former President Francois Bozize was ousted in 2013. Tuesday's raid, which injured a 3rd soldier, followed similar attacks in the diamond mining town in recent days, including one on Sunday that killed a Moroccan peacekeeper and left 3 others wounded. Authorities in Ivory Coast have arrested 5 people, including 3 soldiers, over an attack and arms theft at a base of an elite security unit last week. Gunmen attacked the base inside the National Police Academy in Abidjan on July 19th, killing an officer, stealing weapons and then fighting security forces in another part of the city. Senior security officials said video surveillance footage of the attack helped lead to the arrests. Now, a Malian activist whose criticism of politicians and religious figures on YouTube has made him a popular figure survived an assassination attempt on Tuesday. Madou Kante, popularly known as Marshal Madou, was driving in the capital Bamako in the early hours of the morning when gunmen fired several bullets at him. Family members report that he was hit in the chest. Earlier this month, Mr. Kante took part in protests organized by opponents of a constitutional referendum. Critics of the referendum, which has been indefinitely delayed, describe it as a tool for President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta to consolidate his own power by giving him the right to appoint senators. Opponents of the referendum demonstrated in the capital Bamako on Tuesday following the alleged attack on Mr. Kante, which they say is in retaliation for his stance against it.
He was visiting an associate of mine. He'd been wounded at his hand, was coming back when he was hit by the bullet, and he couldn't identify the assailant unfortunately.
We don't know exactly who is causing the problem, but either way, we have a problem, a serious problem with the government and with other people. But for now, I think it's for the police to determine who was behind this through their inquiries.
Senegalese security forces halted a protest called for by former leader Abdoulaye Wade on Tuesday by blocking roads and firing tear gas at his supporters. Opposition activists had tried to protest ahead of Sunday's legislative elections in a restricted area close to the presidential palace. Mr. Wade, who led Senegal between 2000 and 2012, has called on the current administration to issue electoral cards to voters still waiting to receive them, who may otherwise not be able to cast their ballot. On Monday, President Sall, that's Macky Sall, went to the country's Constitutional Council to try and relax the voting rules so people could vote without the cards using passports or other forms of identification. But the initiative was rejected by several political parties and opposition coalitions.
Today, we can't vote with a document that can't identify the voter. What's important is the identification of voters on the register and in the voting station. So for all these reasons, we have rejected and we're asking the Constitutional Council to not give Macky Sall and his regime the leverage to commit fraud. We will not accept frauds.
Wade wanted to inform, and the information has been spread. Today, everywhere in Senegal, as well as among the diaspora, everybody knows there is a problem.
The Nigerian Senate has voted to reduce the lower age limit to run for president from 40 to 35. But before the bill can become law, it needs the endorsement of 24 state assemblies and presidential assent. Hundreds of Nigerian youths on Tuesday gathered at the country's parliament, calling for the legal age barrier to holding public office to be changed. Those seeking gubernatorial office or to become a senator must be at least 35, and those wanting to be an MP must be at least 30. If approved, the new ages for contesting presidential, gubernatorial, senatorial or House of Representative ballots will be 35, 30 and 25 respectively.
The young people in Nigeria are incredible, we're innovative, we have capacity, and we have been doing a lot in the Nollywood, in social development, in many aspects. And we have examples of young people who have been appointed into political offices who are doing very well. But we're saying, well, if you have enough sense to vote at 18, we should have enough sense to be voted for.
In Nigeria, you cannot run for president if you're under 40. You can't be in the legislature if you're under 35. Or in the Senate if you're under 35. Or in the House of Representatives if you're under 30. That means most in a country with a median age of 19, most of our young people are excluded from responsible office and from participation in government.
Zimbabwe's parliament has amended the country's constitution to empower the president to handpick the Southern African nation's top judges. Plans to give President Robert Mugabe such powers started earlier this year when the then Chief Justice left the bench after reaching the age of retirement. President Mugabe's ruling ZANU-PF petitioned the courts to hold public interviews to appoint the next top judge until the constitution had been changed. This failed, but the party instead introduced a bill proposing the now approved amendment ensuring the president chooses the Chief Justice as well as the country's Deputy Chief Justice and the head of the High Court. Members of the country's opposition say the move reverses what Zimbabweans voted for in 2013. 10 people have been injured at a rally attended by thousands in the Gabonese capital, Libreville. The gathering is said to have been in honor of the return of opposition leader Jean Ping, who was narrowly defeated by incumbent President Ali Bongo in last year's presidential election. Gabon's Interior Ministry, in a statement, said that no deaths or injuries occurred during Tuesday's demonstrations, but eyewitnesses state otherwise, with a volunteer doctor at the scene stating 2 people required what he called emergency treatment. Doctors in the Democratic Republic of Congo's capital are on strike. Public hospitals across Kinshasa are demanding that premiums and salaries be readjusted according to the dollar rate.
We are asking that premiums and salaries be readjusted according to the dollar rates to $10 as agreed with the government.
As the union announced, the body is effectively on strike, but nevertheless, we want to reassure the population that minimal services work. In other words, All the departments have established a schedule for people to work to ensure that emergencies are treated throughout the hospital.
An EU court on Wednesday has upheld a 2015 decision by the European Council to freeze the assets of two companies accused of purchasing and selling conflict diamonds originating from the Central African Republic. Boudica and its Belgium sister company Cardium had challenged the decision. International trade sanctions were first applied to the Central African Republic in 2013 when it was suspended from the Kimberley process, an international certification scheme that prevents the sale of conflict diamonds by armed groups. In a statement, the General Court of the EU said both sides of the Central African Republic's civil war conflict have profited from support given to them by Boudica and Cardium. According to the Council, former Seleka forces imposed taxes on aircrafts transporting diamonds and received security payments from diamond collectors. It also said traders involved in the trafficking of diamonds to foreign markets were operating on behalf of Boudica in neighbouring Cameroon. In Namibia, where diamonds are the biggest source of income, but the number of precious stones under the Namib Desert is dwindling. Now, diamond mining giant De Beers has developed a pioneering diamond boat that can pluck the stones from under the Atlantic Ocean. Let's take a look in our next report.
The Butcher is a 300-ton mega machine that trawls the ocean bed in search of diamonds off the coast of Namibia. For diamond giant De Beers, the stones on the Atlantic seabed represent the future, as onshore mines give up the last of their treasures.
The operations onshore are at a crossroads. We believe that there's still value in diamonds to be extracted of onshore. It will require massive capital investment.
Massive cash injections were needed, not least to build Mafuta, a ship which sucks up sediment on the ocean floor using a vast pipe. The diamonds are filtered out and transferred to retention cans, without the need for any direct human involvement. Those on board have to cope with extreme weather conditions while trying to minimize the damage done to the seabed.
There is disturbance, but the natural events around us are far in excess, and the rehabilitation period is fairly short.
Undersea extraction produced 1.2 million carats in 2016, 2/3 of Namibia's total haul. But the partnership between the Namibian authorities and De Beers has faced criticism. Namibian diamonds are better quality and sell for higher prices than stones from neighbouring countries. Kennedy Hamutenya runs a state firm which sells a small number of diamonds to bolster the government's coffers.
De Beers, they promote their own brand, but they use our stones to promote their brand. Yeah. Now we want to create a very strong brand when people are wearing it to know this is coming from Namibia.
Despite the tensions, Namibia has renewed its partnership with De Beers for 10 years. It's a deal that brings in the country's biggest tax revenues, as much as 200 million euros last year alone.
It's time for a short commercial break, but still to come on this evening's programme. Libya's two main factions agree to implement a ceasefire and hold elections. Egypt's criminal court sentences 43 activists to life in prison. And Zimbabwe's national parks say Cecil the lion's cub was lawfully killed.